Costing too much.
All right, it is 5 p.m. according to my computer. I will call the November 12th Executive and Finance Standing Committee to order. Roll call, please, Mr. Taylor.
Carol?
Here.
Manning?
Here.
Gill?
Here.
Glassburner?
Here.
Turk?
Here.
Frank?
Here.
Williamson?
Here.
And Cooey?
Here.
You are all here in uniform.
Thank you. Agenda approval, item number 4.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the meeting is properly in order.
Oh, sorry, verification of meeting laws. Yes.
So moved.
I always cross it off before I get to it. Now we're good for agenda approval. 24 point. if
I'll
this
make
is
that
correct.
motion.
Second. Supervised by Ms. Glassbrenner and Mr. Gill. All those in favor of approving the 24-point agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Public comment.
Nope, number 5.
Oh, I crossed that off already. Minutes.
Slow down.
Wow.
What are you doing?
I'm crossing the next one after I get done.
Take a deep breath.
Minutes from October 28th, 2024. Anyone with changes or corrections? If not, I will declare them approved as presented in our folders. Now we go to item 6,
There we go.
public comment. Anyone from the public would like to comment and or online? We are good with that. Reports. 7, county administrator report.
So you saw, I sent out a pretty extensive update here on Monday. So hopefully we'll get back to doing that on a more regular basis again, just to provide you with kind of the day-to-day and a snapshot of where we're at, what I'm doing, who I'm meeting with. Although it changes day-to-day, you know, at any given time, people are walking into the office to discuss different matters, but that hopefully will give you some insight. Also, I've asked Justin to compile the spreadsheet on the hiring, and so who's come, who's gone, and who's changed status. So that will be a regular occurrence for you before this meeting now. We will email that to you as well. I don't necessarily want to put it out in the packet. I mean, it's public information, but it's still, you know, if we can protect that information as much as possible, unless someone specifically requests it, I think we should do so. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Wage study is going extremely well. So we got the last of the straggler kind of job descriptions that were out there done today and out to people. We have 145 job descriptions now. And we had 89 appeals thus far, with the additional 10 to 12 that were sent out today. We may have a few more appeals, but it's looking like we will be ready to move on into the setting of the wages and all of those things here shortly. We're prepping for the campus reconfiguration committee meeting next week. We were asked to take some photographs of the controls of the Honeywell system, and also identify water shutoffs. Randy and I met on that this morning, and he's working on that as we speak. Trying to think of what else we've got going on. Potentially, poor Derek is potentially preparing for recount. So the canvas went well. They did an outstanding job. It's been a long haul. He and Miranda have worked a ton of hours. So kudos to them to make sure that our electoral process went off without a hitch and is functioning well. And other than that, it's just plugging away.
Anyone with questions for the administrator? Good, good, all right. Let's move on to item number 8, discussion and possible action on agenda item placement process. Item 8.
Give me a second to get it up here. Do you want me to start this one?
Well, Supervisor Glassbrenner, you had asked for a discussion on agenda items, and so I know Derek is prepared to kind of speak to some of this, so.
So what I have in your guys' packet is this is a couple items that we have shared at the department head meeting twice, I believe, actually. Shortly after we did our reorganization, the first department head meeting after the April reorganization, we shared this information, and then also shared it again at the last department head meeting last month. So as you have before you, there is this agenda item cover sheet. So the expectation that we've been trying to set and trying to follow for items to end up on the agenda is to use this agenda cover item sheet. So I will say that some departments use this on a more regular basis than others.
Well, that's isn't up.
Well,
Her, Mike, and Barb. Sorry.
Pause.
Pause that. It's saying it's recording, but it's not transmitting out, so.
I just went to the one and hit start. Is there more than one? That's the one we started.
Yeah, that's just weird. Does he have Barb and then Mike Justin?
So should I wait?
No, that looks correct. We need to see if they can get on here.
Go.
Did he say to hold
He
on?
said it looks like it's working, but looks like it's working doesn't necessarily mean that it is, I guess, based on what we just saw.
Well, we are
So-
recording it, so we can post it at a later date if needed, and people can review it at that time.
Yeah, I mean, it is, you can clearly see on here, it's,
Yeah.
it's
So-
recording and has been since the meeting started.
Yep, correct. Okay,
So
so
fair
yeah,
enough.
continue.
Okay, so I guess I will share my screen again. So some departments are do a very good job at using this agenda cover item sheet. So the whole point of this is that if someone wants something on the agenda, they would fill this out. It would be posted as part of the packet. The department head would typically fill this form out. It would then go to Administrator Pesch's desk for review, and then come to me. So this way, the department head knows what they're presenting, you folks have your information in the packet, it's been reviewed by Candace, and then I know what to put on the agenda. Because there are times when I am told, or others are told, we want this on the agenda, but there's no clear indication of what that action is. And so my crystal ball only works half the time, and I don't want to be guessing what agenda items should be, and you guys need the information that you have before you come to the meeting. So this is a form that we've used in various forms over the years. I know when Clint was here, we also used it as well, but I think this is something that Administrator Pesch and I will begin to enforce much more, be much stricter about enforcing this, and ensuring that if anyone wants something on an agenda, it needs to be put on this sheet, to be reviewed by her, to be shared with me, to craft the agenda, and then to be put in your guys' packet. So this agenda cover item sheet clearly explains what that item is. There are also times when there will be things on an agenda and then no one will be present to talk about it because life happens and people have to leave, whatever, but at least we have the background information, which also has information on the bottom for a financial review, so they can indicate if it's in the adopted budget. So going forward, the attempt is to ensure that this cover sheet is filled out. So that's what this cover sheet does. Ingrid, does that kind of address the item, the idea that you were going for?
Yeah, absolutely. Is this, I guess, are we thinking this would be, how is this going to be presented? Would this be a part of like our, is it a rule? Is it, I mean, how do we
I think it's
call
just-
this?
It's just, the expectation, and so
Okay.
we have
Because-
relayed this twice in department head meetings, and now going forward, I just met with the department head today, and I said, going forward, if you do not get us this information, your item will not be on the agenda.
So my reason for asking that is because it says discussion and possible action. I guess I'm asking that because do you want us to take action?
No,
on
it's
this?
just a discussion.
Okay.
Just a
then
discussion, make
my-
sure we're meeting expectation and clarifying expectation.
Yeah, and I'm glad that we're gonna handle it that way because I did wanna say, obviously, this needs to leave room for flexibility. There's going to be times when there's an emergency or, something
Absolutely.
like that. And I didn't want it to come across like there were no exceptions ever. I just think that this will make it a lot smoother for everybody involved. And then everybody knows what to expect as well.
Well, and I mean, there are times where, you know, we've known that someone has said they want an item on the agenda for 3 weeks, and then they don't get us the cover sheet, and they don't get us, and realistically, then it's on them, that they didn't get it done in time. Because again, we can't chase everybody around and police them. They're department heads, they should know to get us the information, they should ask the question. Adam had no problem asking me, hey Candace, I need to do this, what do I need to do? He got it done, we got it on the agendas, and everything was fine. It shouldn't really be a painful process.
Okay. I guess I would like to hear from the rest of you that, I know I had asked for this, but thoughts from you guys.
Where is this form going to be?
They all have it already.
I understand they all have it. If a county board member wants to get something on an agenda, do we use this form? If so, where do we find
Well,
this?
that would likely go through a committee, right?
Yeah.
We take that through a committee.
But
So-
even our committees often use this form.
I can upload this form, I can upload this to.
I think it'd be good
your
to make
shared
it
folder.
consistent. I mean,
Sure.
if there's
Sure.
a topic
We
we
can do
want brought up, we should be doing the same thing, I think.
And I will say, guys, this was not new, like Clinton
Right.
started this
Correct.
when he was here, so I
Correct.
don't know if you guys remember that, but.
Mr. Severson.
Where does the chair's ability come in to say what is on the agenda and not on the agenda?
It says it on here.
That's in our board
It's in the board rules.
And each,
So then how does
each,
this reflect with the chair then wanting what he wants on the agenda or not?
we run all agendas past the chairs before they're actually published.
And so that would be the items like this will be, if he says if this item's filled out or not filled out, like what if this wasn't filled out? And the chair says, I would like this still on my agenda, even though this form's not filled out, could he still do that?
Then that's at his
Or
discretion.
that person do that, I shouldn't say he.
That's at their discretion to do so. But if we're gonna have a consistent policy, we're gonna try, and honestly, I mean, if they wouldn't know if something was gonna be on the agenda if there wasn't a face sheet. If we kind of said, hey, here's a cutoff, if you don't give us the face sheet, it's not going on the agenda, unless it had been in a committee
Yeah,
earlier.
it's a good guideline, yeah.
Yeah, so, but yeah, absolutely, it's always at the discretion of the chair of the committee.
I mean, I think the intent of this is just to make sure that the information is provided to us to give to you in a timely manner to review, and it's not just this last minute, oh, we need this agenda item on there with no information, and then we get to a meeting, and, well, we don't really know what that's about or what that's for. This
Yep.
just ensures transparency in the material that's gonna be discussed, and we have somewhat of a process in place, so then we can administer that process throughout the day. It's not meant to make it more difficult, it's just meant to streamline it and have all the information in one spot for each agenda item, so Candace knows what is coming in the meeting, I know how to do the agendas, and you all know what's gonna be on there. So, like Ingrid said, we were using this form years ago, and then it just kind of fell off the wayside, but there seems to have been an uptick in information not getting to us in a timely manner for us to do what we have to do. So the second piece to this that I wanted to share with you is I've also shared this with department heads that clearly outlines the agenda packet, the meeting schedule, when items are due to me, and who the department heads are, and also, this is taken from our new rules of the board, the agenda item schedule that we have. So for those that are committee chairs, you know before every committee meeting, I reach out to you and I say, hey, here's what I have for the agenda, and we kind of go over that agenda together, but I have provided this to all department heads as a way to make sure they know when items are due to turn in for Candace to review, for me to post, and for us to make sure that items are getting posted on the county's website.
And that they have seen twice as well.
In addition to that, I have also provided everyone with a template on how to fill out a resolution, because it also happens that we will want action taken at a committee level meeting and a resolution is often not prepared, or it's wordsmithed on the board floor, maybe not proofed as well as it should be. I know we've had a string of typos come up lately, and I don't like typos. I want it to be right the first time it's printed, it's being published. And this also sets a nice groundwork for how a resolution should be filled out. So the expectation would be you fill out your agenda cover sheet, whatever supporting documentation that's there with it, and if there's a resolution that you want forward to the county board, that you would have all of that ready to go to your committee. Your committee would then approve it. I will fill out the bottom part as the form says, but this is just kind of that skeleton for a resolution, because not everyone is Shakespeare in writing resolutions all the time, but nonetheless, this gives you somewhat of an idea on how to fill that resolution out. Again, the content can change, but I try to come up with some standardized cookie cutter template, if you will, that everyone can use, and follows kind of the way that the county has historically done resolutions. So this has also been provided to everyone as well.
I think it's time I,
Supervisor, any further? That's better. Go
Yes.
for it.
I just wanted to say as part of that, so when we had been doing the agenda item cover and then the supporting documentation previously, a lot of times, if there was going to be a specific resolution suggested for the board to consider passing, then this was already filled out as a, and then we could
Yes.
just amend it.
Correct.
So I think,
Correct.
yeah, I think that's the intent here,
Yes.
is that if you are hoping to have an agenda item become a resolution, that is pre-filled out.
Correct.
Correct.
So then it goes, everything goes, and everyone knows what's going to board. So when you're presenting that resolution to county board, you can wholeheartedly say, yes, the committee is bringing this resolution forward, and we didn't write it after the meeting, you all viewed it at the committee, so anyone who's present at the meeting, part of the committee, you know, has signed off on it, if you will. And so, again, this is really just to really streamline this process, have everything in one spot, and to make sure that we're taking the time to review resolutions before they go to board, and that all the information is on there. Because it is incredibly frustrating, I'll be totally honest, to be chasing down pieces of paper and agendas at the 11th hour. We can't, that's just not, that's not efficient or anything helpful, so. Go ahead.
Sorry, one more thing. I know we said this isn't like a rule or anything like that, but I know we're looking at updating the policy handbook.
Mhm.
So I think that would be an appropriate place so that it's a point of reference
When we get there.
for a stated expectation. Because if we're saying that we expect it, usually there's a place for that to reside.
I just wanted to make sure with you guys that our expectations were not super crazy and out of the ordinary, that these are forms that we can use, or at least this is a process that does not seem to be too intrusive to anyone, but really a nice way to get things done. So that's what I would really like to see happen. It's just a nice, streamlined, efficient way that items get to you guys and they get to us and they get uploaded for everyone else to see.
Have you had feedback? Has it been difficult for people to fill this out or making a lot of extra work?
We are working, we're working on it. I think it just takes a little bit of time, but we're working on it. We're getting better. I would say Administrator Pesch, we're getting better.
Yep, we started in April, trying to, we reinforced it again.
And
And
again.
now we're kind of saying, you know what? You need to get this stuff to us, or, we're not gonna recommend it be put on an agenda. Because again, I agree with Derek, there have been times where people put things on agenda, we can't speak to it. At least if we have the agenda face sheet, I have a little bit of background, he has a little bit of background. We could at least speak to an item if somebody can't be here, something comes up, or what have you. And that way, we're not postponing taking action on said item.
And there's always going to be those cases, right, where you have the 24 hours to post agendas, and I understand amendments like we had for this amendment.
Yep.
Those things happen, yes, but those should really be few and far between, right? We should have everything much more organized, and we should know what we're going to talk about to have the least amount of amended agendas as possible. So
Yes.
this will hopefully help with that as well.
Thank you, guys.
I do need to apologize to Supervisor Cooey because I did not tell him that he was the chairman now of Public Works. After our meeting yesterday. So that I will take blame for. Any other questions on item number 8? Otherwise, we will move to number 9. All right, number 9, discussion possible action approval of Richland County procurement policy and fee schedule.
Okay, so this has been months in the making. So we started this endeavor beginning of last summer, probably less. And we worked with Andy Phillips and Ben from Atolis Law to assist us. So again, go to the masters. Let's not start with something a little wonky that we're not quite sure on. And so they have assisted us in drafting of this policy. The department heads have been wonderful about all reviewing their fee schedules, revising their fee schedules, and getting that information to us. And so what the intent of this policy really was to clarify how we're doing business and also to incorporate the items that were in the old rules of the board governing expenditures into this policy. And so the initial sheet that you see is just an overview of what Larry made sure was incorporated based on the old board rules. So this is just a quick view summary of what you'll find within the policy. Then you have the policy itself in draft form. And then you also have the summary fee schedule. Now, as I said, we do have some formatting to do in this. It's really about the content, because once we have approved the content, then we will create a table of contents for the policy, and then we will make the fee schedule an addendum. That way, once we put the policy in ordinance, we can modify the fee schedule as a standalone because it's an appendix, sorry. So that is the intent. I did send this out last Friday to try to give you guys some time to review it before today. I had a few questions from Supervisor Carroll. I didn't receive any other questions, so I guess now, Larry, you have anything to add?
No, I don't think so.
Larry and I have been tag teaming this event with Ben and Andy, so, any questions, anything we can clarify?
I do have a couple questions. Oh, Steve, did you want to go first?
Go ahead, Mr. Carroll. We'll just go down the line.
Yeah, you guys got back to me really quick on my questions, but I think in the past we have used cooperative procurement. I think Josh has done it in the past, so I just wanted to make sure that if we decide to do it again, that we have a little background on how it works.
Yep, and so I did pull the statute, and I will get this to everyone. It's basically just saying that we are allowed to join together with other municipalities or groups of municipalities and enter into an agreement to purchase on a larger scale. That is what that is. Right now, as far as I am aware, we are not doing that. I can clarify with Josh, but those specific agreements don't or shouldn't be in the ordinance. It's just that you may do that. And this is the statute that governs how that would operate. And so that's really what that is. And again, we can kind of have a sidebar on cooperative agreements, and I can get the statute out to all of you, and then we can have a discussion on that at a later time, just so that you're all aware of what that statute means. Happily do that.
Supervisor Grassplanter or Mr. Gill, anything?
So I just had a couple of clarifying questions. On section 4, that says authority levels, Roman numeral 4.
Yep.
That's on the 9C.
Yep.
Authority levels, and then it's section B, number 4, where it says the professional service contracts for the maintenance of computer hardware or software may be approved and signed by the county administrator regardless of the value of the contract when funds for the contract are included in the budget.
Yep.
Is that kind of been our policy before now, or is this new? I mean, and when we're saying regardless of the amount, like,
Yep, well, so we added that language throughout because you've already approved it once. It's approved and in the budget. I would not be signing on anything that you all have not already approved. So if it is something that is not included in the budget as presented and approved by you, then it has to come through committee and to board.
so you're saying it's an actual line item in the budget? It's
Correct.
not just like, oh, we have extra room in the budget?
No.
Okay,
If it's something that is not specifically designated in the budget, then it has to come through committee and through board.
Okay.
This is only for things that are allocated very specifically in the budget. So like, it would be software contracts or Office 365 purchases or things like that. Those are very specifically approved in those line items within the budget. Then we could sign on that. But anything that is new or, oh, well, I had allocated $50,000 for this, but now I want to use it for that. Nope, that comes in front of you. That has to be approved because it's outside of what was in the approved budget. So it's very specific to what's in the budget.
okay. And I assume that the reason we didn't have that cap on that is because their maintenance and some of those things tend to be higher than and we've already budgeted.
Well, right.
Because that's specifically for our IT department.
Right, and that way, you know, if they have, well, the radio tower project.
Right,
Some
exactly.
of those invoices right now are $2 million. Well, we have
Yeah.
resolutions that allow for us to just sign those, but in this case, if it's already an approved expenditure within their budget, and it might be, you know, $500,000, yep, it's already an approved, and I can look, I can make sure it's approved, and then sign.
Okay. And then my second last question actually, sorry, I have 3. The second question is just a clarification. Again, this is because I'm not super familiar with the terms. I understand in the competitive bidding process portion, I understand the upon quotation, the getting quotes, but what is the difference between that and then when it says the other process being in the open market?
That is just, if you can go out and find, on websites, you can get 3 different
Oh,
prices.
I see what you're saying, like
So, I
you can
mean,
see what they charge.
Right, because
Okay.
certain things, you're gonna wanna get a quote, and other things you can just go and print it off and say,
That
okay,
makes
here's this price, here's Amazon's price, and here's so-and-so's price.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the last question I had was on the fee schedule. Because it didn't say anything previous, like what we've charged, was anything significantly changed on that fee schedule?
There are certain departments that have to change their fees every year, and those fees typically have gone through each of the committees,
Okay,
and have been looked at prior to coming here.
okay.
They've been discussed. So yeah, there have been some changes. Which ones they are, could I rattle them all off? No.
Okay.
But I don't think there's been anything really significant.
Not major, $25
Right,
here.
they're all minor fees, they're $500, $1,000 at the most, so there's not been a lot of changes, especially on the higher end fees. And then some of those have been lowered.
Okay.
Yep, and I know that a lot of the department heads did go out and check with other counties too, to make sure we were in line, and then decided on adjustments based on what they saw too. We're significantly below a lot of counties with a lot of their fees actually, so I think we do pretty well overall.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Attorney?
Yeah, so section 5, competitive bidding process, sub 1, equipment contracts in value of up to $25,000. An equipment contract for which the estimated cost does not exceed $25,000 or less. So is there equipment that's $300 and we have to get competitive bids for chainsaws? I mean, it seems a little, I understand the dollar figure of 25,000.
Well, that's where the open market piece comes, because then you can just go and say, okay, Amazon sells it, Walsh's sells it.
So that's the vision for quotes, you can just go online. Okay,
Yes.
that's fine, I just didn't want to have to go out and
This
I
get.
agree.
Instead of this.
Yeah, so between 0 and 25,000, you have to get at least.
You can either do this or
Or-
you can do it in
Oh, the
open
open market, okay, or the open market.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good, thank you.
That was why I asked that question, because I didn't understand that
All
either.
right.
Well, that's 3 of you that had that question. So
Oh,
it was not
okay,
an
I
uncommon
feel
question.
better,
Yeah,
because
well-
I'm like, maybe I'm just really
No,
No, it
uneducated.
wasn't clicking. All right, very good, thank you.
Good. Anyone else? Mr. Cooley?
I'm good.
Good. Mr. Manning? All good? If not, do we need to action on that then? Approve
Yep.
and send to full county board?
approve and send to full county board, knowing that we will have to plug in the short-term rental fee to this if the short-term rental ordinance is passed this evening. That is the one fee we will have to insert if it's decided upon or when it's decided upon by the board.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Manning, seconded by Mr. Cooley. Any further discussion, understanding that they will, if the short-term rental fee is approved, we will be inserting that as well. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that is passed and moved on to the full county board next week. Item number 10. Discussion, possible action on codification of revised Richland County rules of the board. Item 10.
Mike, what, yeah, Mike's good.
Item 10, codification.
Steve,
Oh, Barb's on.
Barb's got her hand raised.
Okay, go ahead, Barb.
sorry. I am so sorry. I am going to be out of cell range in just a couple minutes. If you would have questions on the item for the, I think that it is down below 16, I think it is, but I'm going by memory.
It is.
Would it be possible to move that up? I'm so sorry.
No worries, which one was she looking for? 18?
16.
16. Yeah, we can jump to that, we haven't started this one. Discussion of possible action, approval of change order for Edge Consulting. Go ahead, Barb.
Thank you, I appreciate this very much. So, what happened with Edge Consulting? We had a property that we were going to move forward with in Yuba. the landowner came forward with a couple of requests that were going to cost significant amounts of money in order to continue to do the lease. The committee, the group of us, not a committee, considered these requests and decided that we should look at land that was close by. The sheriff has been very active, contacted the Franks, who are right across from the original property owner, and they have agreed. We have a signed letter of interest from them to do the tower on their land without all of the contingencies of the first one. So to do this, unfortunately, will cost money because we will have to redo some of the site work, some of the archaeology work, and that type of thing. So there are going to be costs associated, but in the long run, this is a better property and a better place to have this tower. This does increase cost with Edge. It's not because of anything Edge did, it's because we chose a different tower location.
Amount paid total was $26,200. So the overall project cost will then be $349.50.
Mr. Carroll.
Do we know if there will be any change order on the construction side of this?
I'm really sorry, could you turn the volume in the room up a little? I'm not the only one, I'm getting comments too from others that are online. We can't hear you.
I asked if we anticipate a change order on the construction side of this change.
No, the tower itself and the dishes should not change because the location is literally across the road.
My question is, we didn't have a signed contract with this landowner?
We had a letter of intent, but not a lease. And when we gave him the lease, it was weeks and weeks and weeks of waiting, and we couldn't get him to respond. When he finally responded, he had several demands and doubled the amount that was in the letter of intent of the money he wanted.
Understand.
And
Supervisor Glassbrenner.
I know we've had a lot of these change orders and things that we've had to utilize the contingency funds within that budget. Do we have any idea how much we have left for contingencies?
Could you
our
hear
contingency
Ingrid?
fund, yep, it is still healthy. I can barely hear, but I did hear it is still healthy, yes.
Mr. Manning.
So you said the property is on the other side of the road. Is it the same property owner or a different one?
Different
It's a
property.
next door neighbor.
I agree with Steve. I'm wondering why we didn't have a signed, locked-in contract.
Letter of
We have a
intent
letter
sounds
of
like. Go ahead, Barb, sorry.
Yep, you're right. We had a letter of intent that was signed, and we probably could have pushed on him. Our concern was he kept coming back with more and more things he wanted, and that the agreement wouldn't be amicable as we went forward with this relationship for years and years.
So we're looking, anybody else with questions to pose towards Barb? No? So the total change order would be the $349,050, correct?
No.
The
no.
20
No,
just the
the total
26
change is 23,
The $26,200.
26, yes, sorry.
All right. So we're looking for approval, a motion to approve the change order of $26,200.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Supervisor Cooey, seconded by Supervisor Carroll. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the change order of $26,200 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? All right. Safe driving, Barb.
Thank you.
All right, let's move back up to item 10.
Okay, so after the changes to the board rules, one of the items that Andy has discussed repeatedly on some of the phone calls that we've had, as well as I believe when he was here, is codification of the board rules. In his opinion, it is best practice to codify the board rules and then have the committee assignments as an appendix, so that you can change the appendix with the changes of the board, but that then the board rules are an ordinance, which makes them more like a local law and thus further enforceable. And so that is his recommendation, and so I was requested to add this to the agenda.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if something is an ordinance then at that point for the rules of the board, what does it take to change, like if a future board wanted to change those rules? I mean, does it have to be then at a county, it would have to be at the county board level, but does it require a certain majority, or is it just like anything else?
No, it'd
Just
just
like
be like an
anything else.
amendment to the ordinance.
Okay. Okay.
Good question. Supervisor Severson.
What's the difference between a resolution that we already do on certain things versus ordinance? So like we say, this is a resolution to blah, blah, blah. What if every resolution was an ordinance? Because according to Attorney Wendell, a resolution can be changed at any time per new county board. What Supervisor Glassbrenner was alluding to. If it was in a ordinance, would it be able to last or stay? Or would that county board, in 2 years, let's say, and a new county board, be able to change that at any time?
As far as I'm aware, that can be changed just like a board rule. It's about the enforceability is really where the difference with a resolution and an ordinance. When you make it an ordinance, it becomes very similar to a local law. Vice a resolution, which is just a policy within, is how it's been explained.
A resolution is like a formal action. You're saying, we're gonna take this action, a formal statement of a decision or action. It's not necessarily an ordinance that's in the, as you approve various ordinances for different things. A resolution is a statement of action. I'm not a trained attorney, so don't take legal advice from me, but that's my understanding between a resolution and an ordinance. As an ordinance is a local law, and a resolution is a formal statement saying you're taking an action of whatever that means.
And I believe part of the reason why Andy recommends it is because of the fact that at one point there is discussion of engaging a member of the sheriff's office and also potential charges. And that's in statute, but then he just kind of recommends it as a best practice for the board rules as well. Did you remember anything additionally with that discussion? You were...
No, other than say, we amend ordinances all the time for other things, so this could be amended as well.
Yeah.
Mr. Carroll.
As I recall, I got the impression we're kind of plowing the ground here with board rules, and that's why Andy worked with us the way he did. Do we know if other counties have done it as an ordinance, or are we?
Several.
Several have?
Several have, yeah.
Okay.
Many do.
Right.
That's why he was recommending it.
Supervisor Glassbrenner.
Sure. So just to clarify on Carrie's question, then the process for amending a resolution and an ordinance would not really be any different. It's just, as you were saying, the gravity of it perhaps, or the enforceability? Okay.
And it sounds like to me the ease of enforcement is easier with an ordinance.
Yeah, I kind of wish we had heard his explanation, because I am still a little fuzzy on what that looks like. So I don't know, did he make a written explanation of that at all that we could look at later?
No, he said it in the meetings, and then he did explain it, and he did explain it when we were talking about our board rules as well. He
There
talked
was a lot
about,
of information at that
yeah,
time,
and
so I
he
don't
talked
remember
about
that.
it there.
Okay.
So if you want something additional, we can request
Well,
it
it
again. It wasn't me requesting this item to be on the agenda, so I'm just speaking to what I know.
So, I mean, I don't know if it has to be from him, but perhaps there's a resource that we could look at that would explain that, because I assume, that we're talking about county government at that point, right? Like any of those things, resolutions versus ordinances, surely there's gotta be something out there that would explain that enforceability measure.
Yeah, maybe, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Maybe we just have Attorney Wendell or Andy type up, explain the difference between resolution and ordinance and what it means if this is codified, and we can bring that back.
Because was this gonna need to go to the full county board?
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
that would be a great educational thing, because I would love to clearly understand that as a board member myself.
We can do that.
Okay. So we'll just put it back on next month? Does that work with everyone? Yep. A little more information?
Well, we can do it the second meeting.
Yeah,
If
we
we have one.
approve it
I mean,
to
we
go to
could've-
county board.
Yeah, I'm not
I
opposed to
was just
approving
looking
it.
just for clarification, right, Baker?
Well,
Right.
that's up to you all, if you wanted to go to county board without that
I make a
clarification,
motion
that's
to
not
take it
mine.
to county board.
Yeah.
I'll second that with the provision that we have some further explanation on it.
Okay.
Sure. If you look on the WCA website, they've had articles about county board rules that do address this too, so there are other resources too
Okay.
you can take a look at. I just did a quick search for codification of board rules, and the first like half dozen results are all from WCA's.
Okay.
Good. Motion by Supervisor Cooey, seconded by Supervisor Glassbrenner. Any further discussion on the codification of the board rules with further information coming?
Yes, a discussion point. This is a good, good example of like where if we had some explanation in our packet beforehand of like what that meant, then we could have done that research. Because I saw that and I was like, what does that mean? I don't know.
Okay, well,
you know.
I would ask then, if you have a question like that, email us so that we can get that
I
information.
understand that, but like I
Yeah.
thought this just meant like, I assumed, and I shouldn't have assumed, I guess, but I assumed it had something to do with how we've been putting things into, I don't know, I thought it meant something different. So I was
Okay.
like, oh, I think I know what this means, and that's why,
Okay,
so I guess,
because we're happy to do whatever research to try to make sure we have those answers by the time we convene here.
right, but I'm saying like, if I had even known like, oh, this is a recommendation to codify in order to make it more enforceable, I would have done my own like Google search. And I'm not making that as any kind of like, criticism, I'm just saying, and again, I should have clarified, but I just thought I knew what it meant and I didn't.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of moving it on to full county board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, moving forward with a little more information coming. Number 11, discussion and possible action, approval of short-term rental ordinance. Number 11.
Mr. Carroll, I think you'd be best to speak to this one,
Sure.
rather than me.
The Natural Resources Committee's been looking at, actually for quite a while. And we know that there are state statutes that require Airbnbs to license and follow regulations. But we thought there was a few things that weren't covered in the statutes that we thought we could add a little bit. We're not trying to duplicate what's in the statutes, but the things we identified were more to do with just communicating so we know what's out there, and also things having more to do with just trying to be a good neighbor, those kind of things, addressing parking and you know, those kinds of things. So if you looked at it, I mean, this is all fairly straightforward stuff, but if you've got any questions or concerns, we've been looking at that for quite a while. We can research more if you have any questions.
So what is the fee for this?
We've not set one
I
yet.
haven't, no set fee, okay.
Other counties, Steve, are doing this as well?
Oh, yes.
Good.
What does what are we waiting for to set that? Are we looking for more information?
I think we just need to decide what our actual costs are to administer it. It won't be that very large, it won't be a very large fee.
So will that have to come back through then, once you have a
Well,
fee set?
I'm thinking that's what's gonna go in that fee appendix, right?
Right, and didn't they discuss $125 or something?
I don't
like
recall.
that At the board, I think it was at the Natural Resources Committee, I believe it was $125.
The bottom of the fee schedule said 200. As it was rolled outside of the fee schedule. I'm just pointing that out, that's what it was, so. I don't know if that's the number they're looking for, but that's what was there.
Well, I glanced at it.
Yeah, because I think that as they were thinking about it, they didn't think it was going to be quite that much, so I think that was the placeholder fee, and then they kind of talked about it, and so I think it was wanting some input.
So are we gonna have county employees go out to inspect these locations?
We're not doing enforcement. It is there's gonna have to be some education, some, I guess you'd call it, announcement that it's a new license. But we still haven't fully fleshed that out.
Right, so it talks about the zoning office is the one that's going to be issuing these. To issue it, do they go out to the property? Yes, this meets certain criteria and standards. No, it doesn't. Or is this just a fee that Airbnb people or Verbo, whoever it is, has to come in and say, oh, I can't operate, so you have to give me a piece of paper for $200?
Like I say, the statutes cover things like safety and things that have to be inspected. We're not looking to be inspecting in that way. We're mostly wanting to make sure that the Airbnb folks know that we have a few requirements, like I say, being a good neighbor, those kind of things. And it's just whatever it costs for us to administer it, really. I don't know if 125 or 200 is the right number, but.
Yeah, I guess I'd like to know what that administration is, because I have gone through the Airbnb licensing process with the state, had the state inspector come out. We went through all the criteria, we went through all I don't know, it took half a day or so to do some of all the paperwork and all that stuff. And it was, I think it was 150 or 200 bucks. So now we're saying now it's an additional $200 to do what? What service, what benefit are the Airbnb people, the short-term rental people getting? When they go to the state, the benefit they're getting a certificate. They've been checked. I can say, I meet these criteria. Is this just another piece of paper that we stick on the wall? I don't know. It seems harsh to the Airbnb people who are doing a good job bringing people in, to the community to charge them for something to walk in to get a piece of paper that says that the state's already checked this out. I'm concerned.
Supervisor Turk.
Yeah, I was on the committee when they were first considering this, and it's been in the works for a long time. And they're in contact with area operators, so they're understanding what the intent is.
Okay.
In situations we've seen, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, there have been people who've come in and complained about Airbnb operations or short-term rental properties, and we didn't have anything in our zoning code to address it really.
Correct.
And so if people follow the process, get the correct paperwork, we can say, well, they agreed to operate by the rules that are set up by Richland County as far as, parking and whatever else. And so if they're violating terms of that, we would have some instrument to say, hey, you're not running it the way you're supposed to be and your neighbors are complaining. If someone's complaining just the fact they don't like it exists, well, they're following the rules.
So, and to
Does that make
clarify,
sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm just trying to find out how this.
Is that in line with your recollections too, Steve?
Yeah.
Well, what if somebody chooses not to do that?
they can't operate them.
There's a
Well, but
fee.
you're saying that it's not, you're not going out and looking for these people, I assume?
So the neighbor would have to complain and
We,
then.
I would assume
You
at the
just
end,
said
it's
this
any
is
other
not
zoning
about
violation
enforcement.
at that point.
well, yeah, it's like any other zoning
But if
violation.
someone needed a certificate of, or what do they call it, a conditional use permit and didn't get one, well, there's provisions for violating that. I assume there'd be provisions for violating this too.
Is there? Is it built
Yeah,
in?
there is.
So, and in looking here, they have to present
Number 9.
their state lodging establishment inspection form and a copy of their Wisconsin license in order to then obtain this permit. So basically, it's them proving that they have gone through the state, that they have been properly licensed, because one of the things that I do recall in some of the meetings I have attended is that we have several Airbnb operating that are not registered, that are not licensed. And I do believe there's also been concerns at certain points that they are operating with far more inhabitants of a building than the septic can hold, and they're worrying about septic failures and some things like that. At least the discussions I was party to when I have attended these meetings at different times. So I believe that that was kind of the intent in doing this, giving us an enforcement mechanism and also trying to prevent some of those things where your septic will support 8 people and you've got 18 people staying in the house on a pretty routine basis. Well, that's just asking for trouble. So I think that was some of the intent behind this as well.
Okay.
And if that's the case, and I haven't read it all, Steve, but all right, so in that case, if I have 18 people there, who's gonna you know, you're gonna have a total number, Bob, did they tell you the total number that you could actually put in an Airbnb according to your septic?
So no, they did not give us that. We have to specify the number of beds that we have, and then when they come and look at that, they say, oh, you have this number, so you say your maximum is this, and I say yes, and then they measure it according to that. So we have a maximum number we can have. They didn't base it on the septic, they based it on what we said, and then looked at how that would affect things.
Yeah, and I've heard some of these same rumblings over the last 2 years that the concern was septic systems and being more people in the structure than what is legal. Mr. Manning?
I guess I've never really heard the answer to this about the answer, but I know in the past, a larger hotel person in the area was concerned that you're not charging tax. Did they ever spin out, you do have to pay tax, right?
Yeah, so if you're going through Airbnb or Vrbo or any of those documented companies, they take tax from you, and that goes to, hopefully the county sees their share. I know the city sees an income that gets a check cut as a hospitality or
Room tax?
room tax. Yeah, there's a room tax. It actually comes out, and it's part of the billing process.
Just
It
like
goes
a
to
hotel.
town.
Just like a hotel, just like a hotel.
The townships also.
Oh, townships are seeing that also, okay.
The townships have the opportunity to see that if they pass, not every township passes that.
Okay. So it's up to the township then.
Yeah.
Mr. Severson, go ahead.
Supervisor Rennie, she's not on the board anymore, but he would have been a great example that we could have utilized for this. I'm gonna talk from experience here on this. So, there's a house on Highway 14, East, that's close to Quick Trip and the former Dairy Queen and RC Tacos. That's got a lot of rooms in there, and it could hold a lot of people in there. It could hold like 5 to 6 different people in different rooms. Could live there, essentially. And the septic system was built, and the septic system was put in. And Renish Plumbing put that septic system in, and he asked, how many people live here? And he said, so he put in this number amount. It was only for 3 people. But the house could hold at least 8 people in different rooms that could utilize that septic system. So what I'm saying is that a house could hold multiple people, but the septic system that's installed could hold less people. So when that house goes up for sale, it can be sold to anything, they have to market it as a 3-bedroom house instead of a 5-bedroom house. I'm just saying that you're making your decision on here, that, well, an Airbnb can't hold that much because of the septic system. Well, it possibly could hold that. It depends on what the septic system was in the ground at the time that it was installed. It was for. So you can't base anything off of that. And they could change the septic system to make that, to add up further for that.
Yeah, but anything they would have had to have a sanitary permit that would go back to that residence.
My house, same way.
The information,
It's got more than 3 bedrooms, but
readily
that's
available.
the septic that it was put in.
I mean, that information would be readily available. I think it's been done in the last 4
Mr. Frank?
So is this document compared with other counties? How are other counties doing this in their document? Have we looked at as a comparison?
We looked at several counties, and I have to say, some of them are much more detailed and cover a lot more ground than what this does. They're usually in places that have a high tourism content. So we didn't just copy what someone else had, but we did look at things that looked like reasonable things that filled gaps that aren't in the statutes. So that's how we came up with it.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Supervisor Carroll in regards to this? And what's your wishes? Committee?
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carroll. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to see what the fees are going to be before it gets approved anywhere else. We've had a couple comments as what they are, what's the fee going to be? 125, 200? I mean, I think we should know that before we get it approved to any board level.
that's at the committee level, that's not my wheelhouse there.
So maybe it has to go back to that committee to determine that.
Maybe possibly get that filled in before it then goes to the full board.
Yeah, let's do that.
I guess I still have questions too about how we're gonna check on people. Are they getting the Wisconsin license or whatever? Is that a requirement of Airbnb? I don't think it is.
So the state of Wisconsin, it is a requirement.
Wisconsin is, but does Airbnb require that as well?
Airbnb sends you a notice every year saying, make sure you get the permit.
But I misheard other people that have not registered with the state.
To get their county permit, they would have to show it,
Airbnb,
so.
there's
Right.
other
No,
ones.
but
And then
the
their
state's not-
permit is valid for
Right.
2 years.
Right.
They're using the word Airbnb as short-term rental pictures. The statute talks about it as short-term rental. It doesn't talk about it as
It
Airbnb.
didn't
Airbnb
use
is
that
a company.
language in here, did it?
I think I did see short-term.
It's short-term rental.
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't think we should use Airbnb.
No, you shouldn't. That's actually a company. And there's
Lots of other.
Oh my God, there's-
VRBO.
Yeah.
50, 60 of them out there, and they, evolve, and they battle for each other's business. and-
So since we have a motion and a second, do we then have to vote no, or can we just postpone and,
Well, if I
Push it
may,
back,
Mr. Chair,
or-
if you want this to go to county board, your county board meets next week and natural resources is already met. So if it needs to go back to natural resources, it's not gonna have time unless they have a special meeting before county board next Tuesday, so.
The reason there's not a fee in here,
I mean, it's not that
we were trying to keep the same idea we've had other things where we wanted to put the fee in the fee schedule, so we don't have to revise the ordinance itself. And so it got shunted to this. So you're right, we did not decide on a fee.
so,
Can I go?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I was not here for the public comment, but I'm a vacation rental owner, so it's Sheila Choxel here. And also I'm a local accountant, so I'm kind of familiar with reading contracts and laws. And I was kind of involved early on when you guys were talking about the process. And early on, there was never really set exact terms on what we were agreeing to. So eventually I kind of stopped coming to the meetings because I didn't really know what was going to be proposed. And you're kind of finally at a point now where you can see what exactly is being proposed. And I don't have, I do appreciate that you guys didn't throw everything in here in the kitchen sink. We obviously, I'm hoping you're coming at this at a pro-tourism, pro-business perspective. I think that's the thought. So there's not a ton in here. Yeah, they've thrown out different ones, and some of them are just so cumbersome, and it's just so eye-rolling. This isn't that bad. I do have some, when I get into the details, which is kind of what I do, I kind of have certain concerns that I guess I have questions on. The first, I guess, was, so right now, you're supposed to get this conditional use permit in order to have a property, have a vacation rental. And as Mark Cooey has told me before, he's like, you have this conditional use permit, but we don't have any conditions. We meet conditions, which I think is the point of getting this resolution, or actually ordinance that you guys are thinking about, is that they would have these conditions. And so the question, I guess, is, first off, is like, does that go away? Do you still have to get that conditional use permit, and then also, which is $500, and then also pay $200 a year, or is the intention to make that go away, and now you're just going to have this biannual license?
Excellent question.
We have not been talking about a conditional use permit in natural resources. We were just mostly focused on getting this to be a reasonable ordinance.
Because early on, it was, Melissa Luck, when she was on like the zoning, she was like one or the other, very much. And I was always like, yeah, just do one or the other. I mean, it's hard enough to find.
To me, this would take the place of conditional use permit.
And then the thought is like, then shouldn't they be simultaneously approved? Just like we approved this ordinance, and then that ordinance also is changed to get rid of it. So instead of just passing this, and then that one's still looming, and you don't know what's going to happen.
I don't think it ever went to ordinance to do a conditional use for vacation rentals.
I think there is.
we need to check on that.
Do we
Sounds
have-
like we should send it to that.
I'm sure.
Maybe a motion to postpone and refer it back to.
Mark knows well.
Can I make that motion to postpone and send that back?
Yes, motion by Glassbender, second by Frank. All those in favor of postponing, and we will get more information and a fee amount, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, postpone.
So
When is
talking
the-
about, there's other comments that I don't know if you want